Now we understand what you do, what you are doing
Yep.
and plan to do. But what do you think governments and NGOs could do to help you in your efforts?
See, one way I see is obviously co-creating solutions between the enterprise, the government, and the NGOs, right? So, because the challenge is that there are a lot of solutions that are built in silos. Everybody is trying to invent some part of a digital ecosystem, but the digital ecosystem still operates in silos. The question is through the platform of co-creation and initiatives like the Digital for Development, the D4D hub, we could actually bring in a lot of the collaboration between the enterprises and the governments and the NGOs and the startups together to bring equitable access to all of this technology that is available today. So that's one way of how we are actually collaborating with the academia, with the governments in bringing what technologies we practice into a large scale deployment. And that also gives us real on the ground feedback because it's not a solution in the lab, it is a real world problems and real world solutions that we are building together. So co-creation is the way I see is where we transparently, very openly discuss the challenges and build the solutions together.
Okay, so that's very interesting. And may I ask you another question within this question?
Yeah.
Because I think you know Europe very well, and your companies have invested a lot in Europe. What is your feeling about how Europe is doing or will be doing soon in this regard? I mean, in regard as co-creation, is Europe a place to be when you want to do co-creation, or is Europe a little more reluctant to go to co-creation?
No, I would say it's already happening because we Europe has taken the leap forward in terms of defining certain frameworks and directives. It actually lays out a good understanding of co-creation. And obviously, from AI and sustainable AI, I feel Europe is in the right path, and we are already moving towards bringing in a set framework and collaboration together, Patrice.
Okay, so that's a positive message. Ricardo, can I ask you the same question about the how you see the optimal role of government, business, and NGOs and academia? I mean, civil society more generally in engaging in the path of co-creation or any other solution you would have to get there.
Yeah, now I have a bit of a complementary perspective because I've been in Europe for many years. I've been in Sweden, which is a place with a lot of innovation and connection between companies and industry and academia. And I've been in the US for some time now. I think there is still some work to be done in Europe in order to fully benefit from the academic research at the industrial level and vice versa. I find it much easier for me in the US to work alongside companies to develop projects together to transfer the knowledge and then to have very highly qualified researchers trained in my lab to then do internships in NVIDIA, in Google, in companies that are really appreciating that talent somehow, or that they're funding directly research in my lab. That really can help later on, not only to drive innovation, but also help in building more efficient and more sustainable solutions in the end, right? That's a little bit what we are aiming at. So I think there is still, and I don't think that it's necessarily a regulatory limitation. I think that sometimes it's even a mindset or a cultural limitation that not everybody, and I work with people in Hitachi, and that's a great exception because I have great experience with them. But in many cases, yeah, I think that in the industrial level, it's not fully understood what the value is in collaborating and investing in academia and doing things together. I think to me, that's the biggest difference that I've experienced so far. And of course, this in the field of AI is even more dramatic because of how things are quickly changing, right? So I think there is a very thriving ecosystem of AI innovation in the US because, among other things, because of that close interaction between companies and academia.
And as a complementary question, do you see this problem with cooperation between business and academia in Europe a bit of a fact linked to the number of SMEs? SMEs are really the core of industry in Europe, and for an SME, I guess it's daunting, the perspective of collaborating with academia, because academics are just the people who know everything, and I'm just a small company. And do you think there is a bit of that in
That's a good point. I think it's part of it. Um, I think also, I mean, I'm from Spain originally. I've worked a lot with research in Spain and academia and industry. And to some extent, what I see with SMEs and even bigger companies is that collaboration with academia is almost understood like cheap consulting rather than, these people can bring you something truly new that can transform your business and the way that you do things. So I think you're right that many people may think that, as something that is not for them, and many other people think like, oh, this is cheaper than hiring, Accenture or some big consulting company, but they don't realize that what academia can provide to them is not consulting; it's really, completely cutting edge technology that can, really help them. So I think there's a bit of a cultural aspect in there.
yeah, and maybe
If I
from the
may,
term of language, because they don't speak the same language sometimes, academics and small business. And for you, Antoine, the same question about the split between government, NGOs, or civil society and business, but maybe with a slight slant, because uh, how do you see in satellite imagery? I guess you provide your wonders to big government, to national governments, but you don't go to local governments. And do you think there is, because some people think there is a big role for AI, and in the area of AI and environment, a big role for local governments. Do you work with local governments as well?
so yes, for instance, we have a contract with 20 of the départements in France, so the counties,
Hmm.
to provide real-time wildfire detection to the firefighters.
Hmm.
So obviously, the at the end, what we do is very pragmatic and it's used locally, unless it's not
Yeah.
for if you want to pre-position your firefighting equipment, your water reservoir, and then take your operational decision. You need to work with operational people, and this is where we work with local government. So, and it's the same to look at pollution in cities. So we work with some cities. We work with the Grand Paris agglomeration to look at modeling and measuring pollution at a global and at the area level. So yes, at the end it goes into companies and governments. We do have things to do. And I would like to uh, come back to this question of working with academia. The Kairos founders, 4 out of 5 are coming from academia. And we have had a very, very fruitful collaboration. We've published more than 100 scientific papers in Science, Nature, and others. So you can be a small company because we are a small company. We are 9 years old and other people. But if you have the right mindset, it's very easy to collaborate and create breakthrough innovation by working together with academia. So that's at least that my experience here in France, where you have a lot of science and it's very easy to work with them as long as you have the right mindset yourself.
Yeah, it's really a matter of mindset, and I just love what you've said about the local presence, because AI for People is passionate about making AI available to all. And I think there is no better way for people to adopt AI when they see that there are very acute problems like controlling or preventing wildfire in their area is greatly helped by AI. So if people don't see the effect on them of AI, they will still consider that something above the clouds for academics and big experts. But if you have you make a real difference locally, then people will certainly embrace AI. Not really you don't need to know how an engine works to drive a car, so they won't necessarily need to know everything about AI, but they will certainly help fine-tune AI to their needs, to their local needs.
For
So
sure.
and that's I think that's what it was Gopal was meaning about making AI accessible to people, and it was because we are talking about sustainability, we are talking about energy, and he was putting an example of a community that was relying on a coal plant, and a data center company came, just decommissioned the coal plant, used wind energy or solar energy, and they gave the local community residual electricity for free. So of course the locals loved the data center and the company behind it. And maybe another question about what do you think of frugal AI? Is it? Do you see in terms of technology trends? Do you see AI consuming less and less energy despite the growing uptake of AI? Do you think it's possible to dream of AI system that would be less guzzlers of energy and water? Let's start with you, Antoine.
I'm not an expert on that. Clearly, what we see is, we see huge improvement in the quality of the algorithm and huge productivity gain. So things that was requiring hours now can be done in minutes with the same computing power. So there is clearly huge efficiency and productivity gain in the algorithm themselves, but at the same time, there is so much more demand, and the training of models is requiring so much more data set and data input that it's complicated to see the the demand for power plateauing anytime soon. It's going to increase for quite a while before it starts to plateau. It will plateau forever. The trees never go to the sky. So that we all know it will plateau. That's a physical phenomenon. But at what level and when, it's more complicated to know, in my opinion.
Thank you. And what about you, Ganesh, from your global perspective? What do you think of the needs of AI in terms of energy and water? Is there a way to keep them, like to prevent trees from going up to the space, to keep it in reasonable conditions so that people will no longer see AI as a competitor in terms of access to water and energy?
Yeah. So we are looking at it from a three-pronged approach. First, the fundamentals are basically right technology for the right purpose, right? So obviously, in the initial boom and wave, everybody goes in terms of putting the best technology stack and start putting a lot of computing models. So we have right-sized it, and we continue to look at how do you actually right-size your AI models from a compute infrastructure point of view. And one bigger option is cloud consumption, right? Everything on the cloud and trying to run these models too, we really need that. So that's the right sizing that we have done. The second aspect is the edge infrastructure, right? So a lot of times you actually, since our systems are mission critical systems, and we operate with near zero failures, and that's how our systems are supposed to operate. There is no past historical data for us to say this is how failure exists. So one aspect is edge AI. So obviously leveraging edge AI, you are able to build small models, AI models on the edge to inferencing and then act accordingly rather than processing everything in terms of cloud or moving data significantly. So the compute infrastructure is optimized, the energy consumption is optimized. The third aspect is, as I said, there are no failures or very little historical data. So how do we leverage synthetic data on the AI models? Thereby, I'm not really running large complex AI models on predicting failures. So synthetic data source, synthetic data modeling is also helping us frugalize the AI infrastructure and overall optimize it. So these are three different ways. One is the right sizing, right tech stack, not really going with an exorbitant aspect. Then the edge AI and the synthetic data AI models, and all of this focuses on the models and how we can really reflect the ground reality.
And what about you, Ricardo? I will just introduce, because on listening to Gamesh, it reminded me that this morning at the inauguration of the AI4People Summit, one expert said that we shouldn't bet everything on AI, and she was saying that it was about similar to what you said about the right technology for the right purpose. And Ricardo, do you think that this principle could help maintain AI use in the right bandwidth in terms of sustainability?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's an important point. I would say that a reflection, and also based on my experience working with AI for science and for innovation. I come from an engineering background, right? Um, the problem with a lot of the current AI development is that it's not taking into account the knowledge that we have in the disciplines that we come from. So if I want to find a good solution for an aerospace engineering application, a lot of the current era research is basically train a huge model, putting in all the data, and let's see what happens, right? When there is a lot of knowledge that we have in our discipline, obtained through centuries and centuries of evolution, right, of the field itself. So I really see that the true impact, the true transformative potential comes when they come together, when someone with the knowledge from the discipline is really coming together with the right AI methods, with the right computational tools to really know which questions we need to answer. Because that's the other thing. A lot of the research on AI, and if you go to NeurIPS, ICLR, the top conferences, a lot of the AI papers, they're solving problems that we don't have in our disciplines because they sometimes lack the oversight of really the details of what's needed. So, in short, if you're trying to train a very big AI model to solve a problem that we have already solved or for which we have already physical relations, you're wasting computational resources and you're wasting time, right? So the real impact comes, okay, I know this from the engineering, I know this from the physics. You should align and create AI models that are benefiting from that information that we have in order to have more efficient models on the one hand, but second, really targeting the right problems. So without that interplay between the domain expert and the computational methods perspectives, there is basically no real synergy. It's wasting your time, basically.
And what you said just reminds me of the quality of data issued. I think I heard that it was discussing, they were discussing health more than environment. But I heard that sometimes you have to stop the unsupervised operations of AI, of algorithm. And when you want to zoom in on a very specific problem, you have to care about quality data. And then at this point, you have to, only humans can just pick the right data and feed that to algorithm. So is quality data a big factor in trying to have a sustainable AI for a green future?
Is that a
Ricardo.
question for me or for
Yeah, Ricardo,
everybody?
it's for everybody, but Ricardo, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's key. So, I mean, the quality of the data, but also the quality of the questions and the quality of the. So you need an expert who can really guide the questions and the model development in the right way. So your AI model is going to be at most or at best as good as the data that you have. There's some research and some exceptions where you can even have a bit better performance with some not so good data sets, but generally you need good data, right, to have good models, and you need really to know where to look at. I mean, in my area in aerospace engineering, there's a lot of potential for accelerating design and accelerating. So there's quite some work on being able to speed up massively the design process, the optimization process. But the problem is, if you do it as a black box and you just try to put in data and try to get something out of it, you really are not going to get the right speed up or the right solutions that you have. So it is when you are embedding physics or embedding engineering insight into that pipeline when you can actually accelerate and get meaningful results. And I think that's one of the things that most people are missing. And not only in terms of getting the best performance, but also in terms of having more sustainable models, right? Because a lot of the knowledge that you bring in that does not compute that you need to use to learn that knowledge, right? That's already embedded in the model itself. So that's where I think there's most potential.
You're right. The industry you know best will probably have not a very good year this year because it's an industry that is obsessed with safety, right? And there were some problems, and I don't know if they are technology related, but it's an industry everybody watches when it comes to safety, and I guess quality is probably what drives the industry you watch the most closely. Gamesh, what do you think of quality data and how it matters?
No, I echo what Ricardo mentioned in terms of the quality of the data. And from a Hitachi's point of view, if you look at when we deal with socio-economic systems in terms of energy influenced by weather patterns, your climatic changes, because all of this influences. So for us to model a certain parameter, it requires really a good reflection of what the reality is and what the variabilities of it, whether it is the systems that are smart grid operating systems, or if you take our mobility, the rail networks, the vegetation management, the weather disturbances that cost over the period of time, and the seasonality part of it, or if you look at our connective industries where we operate large building solutions where the human factors are a bigger variable, and the changing climatic conditions, the HVAC, the weather patterns. So all of this to bring a large model, the quality is super critical. And that is why we are working with the respective industry bodies, the consortiums of energy, the consortiums of mass mobility, in terms of defining what the data standards is, and working with the industry to collaborate and say this is the minimum data models that we would like to have. That helps because it's not a one enterprise, one academia that can come together. It is the industry association that can come together defining the common data model or the open standards for data for the respective industries. That helps in addressing the quality aspect of it.
Thank you. You suggested sort of a reality check, and I guess the man in the street will love to hear that because when he is hearing a lot about hallucinations of AI. So if you care about reality checks from time to time, I guess it's a big relief for the layman. And Antoine, what is you're providing high quality, very high quality data. So how do you? I guess you care a lot about quality data. You're an evangelist of the quality of data, right?
Exactly. Because our customers are commodity traders, banks, insurers who decide to insure, to finance, or to trade with our data, with a view of the physical world that we provide to them. So And these are very large institutions. They have very low tolerance for low quality data. And over the years, we've proven that we can have um, reliable physical measurement from space. But uh, we see a shift happening because let's say in the early days, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, we used to do machine learning models, supervised machine learning models, where you need quite a lot of labels and ground truth, which was quite lengthy and costly. What we are working on these days are what we call geospatial or remote sensing foundational models, where uh, the, we will have unsupervised learning, where the structure of the data will be discovered by the neural networks, which mean that after that, our objective is to to do the final training, so what we call the fine tuning of these models with a much smaller set of ground truths of labels, in order to reduce the cost of creating a use case. Um, and being able to reduce the time and cost to create a different measurement. So because what was really the main cost driver and time driver was getting the labels, the ground truth, and applying that to the supervised model and do the feature engineering until you get something that works. We believe that foundational models that we'll be able to reduce the levels we need. With maybe we used to need hundreds of thousands, and maybe we need only tens of them. So it's going to be much faster now. We are just at the beginning of this journey. Um, Now, the recent history has shown that brute force transformer have always beaten feature engineering. So it looks like there are good hope that this will work, but I would say this is really very early stage. But that's where we are heading today.
Okay, thank you. Technology is playing tricks because now I got notice that we can continue past 4:15. So we have more time. Good news. Um, uh, the I was going to say, but it was as a conclusion, so maybe it's stupid to say it now, but that I am under the impression that I've been talking to real people, not to robots. And my impression is that we are in safe pairs of hands, that you know how to sort of master the technology, you know how to control the technology, and whether from academia or for a big company or from a startup, and you don't seem concerned at all that something could go wrong, and that so I think the message that is for me is very positive, because if we keep this keep on this path, I guess we will develop AI and benefit from AI, and actually we will reverse the trend that humans are inflicting damage to the planet. So it's a very positive message that I was getting from you. And I was maybe because we have a little more time, maybe I can ask each of you what should be. I mean, you have already in part answered the question, but what do you think is there an urgent thing that we should correct? Is there, from your perspective, something that is very wrong and that we should correct? And otherwise, is there something that one of the three pillars, governments or NGOs, because you're more talking from the business perspective, should do better? Because I think one of the problem we have, we all want people to be more involved, but it's like in democracy, people have to know the, um, even the beginning, the building blocks of democracy to vote correctly. But elections have been going on for centuries, so at least decades. So, in your view, do you think people can? It's so intimidating, AI. Do you think that people can and civil society? Because I understand Gamesh's message that we have to do this together. I mean, even big company cannot do by itself. But do you think that there is a way to get people organized better on the side of civil society? So let's stay with you, Antoine. Do you think what is what is the thing we do very wrong and that we should correct, and what are the hopes for getting better?
I would adopt AI show in Paris, last week, and the largest shows were done by Middle East companies uh, with a level of sophistication, of enthusiasm, of investment that is two order of magnitude above what we do here in Europe. Um, so it's obvious that we do things wrong in Europe. I mean, we are thinking about the potential problems, and so this we spend a lot of time on that. But on the actual doing of AI and moving the things, it's done somewhere else. We have to be honest about it. It's done in Middle East, in Asia, in China, in the US, and we are watching, um, wondering what's going to happen. And if you watch, our ability to influence will be minimal. So the the ambition that we need to have, and the right concern that we have about ethical, and obviously AI will be an influence, and a tool of influence that is it's the best media ever, because you talk to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is the truth for now for many people. So it's an influencer that is stronger than anything else we've ever had in history. But for now, Europe is talking, but is on the sideline. We have to be, very realistic about it. We are not in the game. So you have people like, Ricardo and ourselves and this and that. We are doing things, individual, that we have small firms, but we are not in the game.
That's that's a stern view, but probably fair, I must say. But Gamesh, you wouldn't invest so much in Europe if you had lost any hope in Europe. So probably there is something to be done. Hopefully there is something to be done to do a better job, to have a better record in Europe in terms of AI and environment, but the more general issue of AI.
See, obviously, one of the things that we really emphasize is more about not really using AI as a marketing tool, or AI as more of kind of greenwashing of on AI. We really want to bring in more positive impact, and I feel the intent is there, as the overall Europe and the society together. But the question is, there are too many options and too many distractions and interventions, right? So obviously that is where a guiding principle and a clear directive would be there, but at the same time it should not be bureaucratic process, right? The problem that we struggle is the speed and the efficiency is being pulled back with all the directives. So it's a right balance that we need to do in terms of futuristic intent with scale and speed. I don't think the intent is an issue. It is the scale and the speed is the issue.
Okay, thank you. It's not only is it do we love we tend to love huge bureaucracies in Europe, but arguably it's not only bureaucracy; it's the government themselves are fractioned. Uh, the EU is not a state. I mean, the EU is a gathering of sovereign states,
Yeah.
and it doesn't help when it's time to make decisions and to invest in the right place. So I guess China or the US or even Middle East country which have big pockets, it's easier for them to do the right thing. And Ricardo, what is your view on that? And especially because you work in academia, what is do you think how do you see the future of academia in pushing for better and more effective relations with business and governments?
Yeah, I think there is certainly now a big of a transformation in the sense that very big companies are also doing research, and there is still quite some possibilities also in education. So I think education has been transformed as well. So the role of academia is evolving, and to be honest, I see a lot of the research work done by large scale industry, OpenAI, Meta, Google, that is about scaling up current methods and models. Of course, Google has done great research in the past, but I think the more thinking out of the box and the more kind of creative, innovative ideas still happen in academia and academic hubs. Um, so I think in that sense, it's important to engage academia because that's really essential to be able to bring in these models and these possibilities to their highest potential. Also not being, let's say, influenced by investors and the market. I mean, we can really go deep and we can really bring in completely new ideas, sometimes even crazy ideas that happen to work and transform the field, right? So I see a lot of the research nowadays in scaling up current concepts rather than coming up with completely new things. And also in terms of advising governments. I mean, when we published our work in 2020, AI and sustainability, we had quite some influence in the AI Act in Europe, for example, and the European Parliament. We were really engaged with them. We are now engaged with the UN to really decide the next sustainability agenda beyond 2030. So then the agenda that will replace the SD agenda. So I think that position that we have, or we can have a quite I wouldn't say completely unbiased because everybody is biased, but we're not really influenced so much by market, etc. That gives us a different perspective that is quite unique. And I think that this is going to be a role in steering the future of the field and of the deployment in society, the deployment in applications. So in that sense, I believe that we have a very important role to play. Yeah.
Thank you. And it brings me to my next question to you, Gamesh, because I have always seen Japan as very good in taking the longer view. And I remember for example, the Society 5.0 was quite creative and very innovative in terms of the role of government in particular, and how the government is no longer the only regulator, and regulation should belong to business as well as civil society as well. How do you, at Hitachi, how do you reconcile the fact that you're in business, so you need to make money, you need to look at the next quarter, and at the same time, being of a Japanese culture, you are able to take the long view as well.
Yeah, it's a wonderful question, Patrice. And when I joined Hitachi, I was also fascinated by how the Japanese culture is embedded, right? So, while traditionally as an enterprise, quarters are important, but the Japan culture and what is closely embedded that I see in Hitachi is also that our horizon starts with a 3-year horizon, 10-year horizon, and a 50-year horizon. So everything that we think, everything that we plan and execute is there is a team that's primarily focused around the 3-year horizon. And how do you work? That's BAU. The 3-year horizon is BAU. 10-year horizon is actually innovation that's here and near, and the society in the next 50 years. So all these three themes are working independently without influencing each other, because the problems are going to be different, the solutions are going to be different. And I think that's one way of how you think beyond your current limitations, right? That's something that we have seen in terms of addressing real world challenges that could come, and that's where you are also keeping away clearly business outcomes to the society outcomes. Business outcomes are meant in the near term, society outcomes are actually in the long term. So this is what I have learned myself, being part of the Japanese culture and with Hitachi.
Thank you very much. And maybe we can go a little more local or more closer to the French interest, because I am French too. Antoine, um, how do you see, what is your honest view of, you have been just very honest when you spoke up in your last intervention. So how do you see the plus and the minus in the French way to AI? I guess President Macron, whether you like him or not, he has tried his best to bring to raise the attention about what France can do in terms of the leading edge technology and our education system and seed money and encouraging startups. And I guess you yourself, I mean, Kairos is itself an example of betting on serious startups. What's your view of that? Of course, you're not only in France; you have a global view of it. But how do you see the French take? Is it totally wrong, or is there any? Have they done a few right things?
No, I think there are a lot of things that we do well, in particular in terms of skills and academia and training of people and engineers. Uh, the French engineering school system is very well suited for this revolution, and you have French engineers everywhere in the Silicon Valley. So I think there are a lot of good things that are done. Now, France, as part as Europe, is bound by the state aid issues, and the fact that we cannot give state aid and we cannot give large contract easily in Europe with a preference for European players is a killer. You have sub grants which is a negative margin revenue for us, which so it is of zero interest, in fact, in terms of fundraising and equity story. So there is a lack of industrial policy in Europe, which is at the end you can do whatever you want at French level or the UK. They're also very active, and Luxembourg is active. You have a few Spain as well. So a lot of countries are doing what they can, but the lack of global vision and ability to put a very large amount of public money in service contract like the US are doing or in the Middle East is, so we do fundamental research, we do startup, but having a scale up that becomes the size of OpenAI, it's very, very difficult. Even for a Mistral, they are struggling, and to get government contract, it's complicated in Europe. It's much more complicated.
That's interesting, and brings me to another question to Ganesh and Ricardo, because you are experts of that too. You have long experience and deep experience of Europe. Europe doesn't do everything right because it's difficult, because it's as I said, it's fractioned. I mean, it's the Europe from the very beginning has inflicted itself fractioning as a way of life. But of course, Europe is throwing a lot of money in R&D, for example, the Horizon Europe programs, etc. Do you think that it's too rigid? Rigid. I'm not speaking of regulation, but for the example you took about uh, stated, it's in a way it's regulation, but it's more competition law. Is state aid and other impediments? Is it something that really harms the performance of Europe as a whole? I mean, is it hamstringing the performance of Europe? And then, of course, it's easy to blame other competitors, the US or China or India. But maybe if they do better, it's because they are better organized. So, as Hitachi, you have a view of almost all the how almost all countries are organized. How would you rate Europe? I mean, where the efforts to be more effective in AI and in sustainable AI, where Europe should start?
Uh, Again, I may not represent everything that is happening, but definitely when it comes to bringing AI solutions to the applied industry, say from an energy efficiency point of view, or from a computing data centers point of view, there is definitely a stronger collaboration that's happening. But again, my point of view is more limited to certain segment when we talk about battery operated vehicles, or with so much of weather disturbance, how do you connect the grids, smart grids? So there are stronger needs by the government, which is spelled out, and there is a collaboration and an investment working on some of these areas where AI could be a solution, and there is a drive towards it. So specifically from the industry sectors that we operate as Hitachi in Europe, and with specific segments of the markets, whether it is Italy, Switzerland, Netherlands, we have seen a stronger support, and even with Brussels, there has been a very active collaboration there.
Thank you. And you, Ricardo, I guess you have a very long experience of R&D in Europe. And do you feel that Europe is good at lifting all impediments and regulation and state aid, etc., only when there is an emergency, only, for example, for the battery plant, the important project of European common interest? Or do you think that Europe is flexible enough in the use of its money, the money it invests in R&D, for example?
I don't think it's flexible enough. I mean, having been also at the university in Europe for many years, even when we have funding to do research, to develop projects, the bureaucracy is sometimes is so cumbersome, right? I mean, sometimes we can't even use the money. I mean, sometimes I really think that the bureaucracy is so complicated, so we don't spend the money. So we say, okay, I will not, I will not use it, because yeah, I mean, I feel there is, and I understand that there is a bit of a, one needs to be, especially if it's public money, right? That one needs to have safeguards in place and to do things properly. I mean, that's perfectly fine. But at some point, it's just simply not flexible enough. And that's, having an impact in innovation, and it's having an impact in the capabilities of researchers to do their job. And each country is different within Europe, which complicates things also. I mean, I know experience in Spain, in Sweden, in France also a bit. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's in times of such quick change, and where innovation should be prioritized, this having a more flexible setting would be important. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's not a new experience I am hearing, because I also heard of companies that don't even consider um, filling in, being a candidate on a call for proposals, because they would fit the call for proposal, but they don't want to go through the loops of reporting, etc., etc. So, and
Yeah.
the money is made available. I mean, in 2 or 3 years, it's but the European Commission sort of try to find a solution, because within Horizon Europe they have a new guichet which is more fitting for startups and for innovative startups. You don't have to go through all these bureaucratic exercise, but it's probably, because I hear it that all the time. It's probably a reality that if we could sort of lift part of this weight, maybe we would perform better, because it's very intriguing, because we have all the big minds we need in Europe. We have the best schools, best universities. We have the very good industrial fabric, including the SMEs. I mean, some are really very innovative, and still we lag behind. So there is something. I know that the Commission has spent a lot of money with consultants in strategy, and because they want to get to the bottom of this issue. Why is it? It's no longer my problem. It is for my children. But I would be a young European. I would really be more than perplexed by this discrepancy between the assets, the legacy of Europe, and the inability of Europe to make the most of it. I would be more than perplexed. I would be very angry, because I would say I have to go abroad, or just settle for being part of a continent, a region of the world that lags behind. So okay, but I don't want to end this conversation on a sad consideration, because I guess and I'm very thankful to you for that. Your take of the issue we are supposed to tackle is very, very positive, very, very encouraging. So certainly we don't do the best, because if not, we would be the leading region of the world in AI. But we maybe just because we are maybe more sensitive than other regions about uh, moral value. At least we proclaim we are. So moral value and CO2 footprint and these things. Maybe in the long run, time will prove that interjecting these consideration with pure competition consideration was not a bad choice. But at the time we are talking, it seems to be a drag on what our assets, the bright minds, education, industrial network, etc., could accomplish. Plus, I should also mention the international network, because Europe, and it's true in academia as well. Europe used to be, I mean, a leading region for building up big projects on leading edge technology. So maybe it's just a momentary lapse of leadership. Or maybe I should turn to Antoine, because you were talking to me about leadership. You mentioned, I think, when once last time we talked, and leadership is leadership in your mind one of the ways out of the pit we are in some respects in making the most of AI?
Well, leadership in AI comes from the quality of the models. The quality of the models come from the inputs, so the data and uh, OpenAI, they used everything that was available on the internet, and the computing power that you put in it's really brute force that is proving to be working these days. It was not what we were expecting, but at the end, this is what's working. Um, and we have to admit that for now we are not in a leadership position. We are not in a leadership in the previous generation of technology with the internet, the GAFAs. And for now, uh, except except Mistral, there is no leader emerging in Europe. Um, and even Mistral is obviously much smaller than the other one. So it's difficult to think. I'm not talking about the quality of the people and the research. We are clearly, we are in at par on that matter. But when it is about creating something that is at scale and take global leadership, we have no plan. I mean, uh, we have no plan, I think. I mean, at least credible plan.
Okay. So I cannot see any question coming from in the chat box. Uh, so do you have something that, with hindsight, you wish you had said in your introduction? It's a question for the three of you. Do you have something reflecting on what has been said on the last hour? Do you have something to say that is worth the attention of our audience? And let's stay with you, Antoine, since you are there in front of my eyes.
Mhm. Thank you. And then I will have to leave. So thank you again, Patrice, for organizing that. No, I think again, all the question about ethics and greener, and there is no problem without that. And as Ricardo has proven, and we have the same view, clearly there is no way for us to save our planet and to keep it alive, an interesting place for us without AI and satellite and everything that we've discussed today. So there is absolutely no incompatibility there. Um, Now, if we want to own our destiny in Europe, we need a plan. We need a better plan than what we have today. So that's back to Brussels and others to maybe rethink the assumption that they've been working on for 40 years and adapt to the reality of today. That would be what we need.
That's a message about a reality check, very much needed, urgently
Yeah.
needed. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And what about you guys?
So, my take in summary would be is right, coming together on global initiatives, and the only way we can achieve this is by sharing the best practices, sharing the learning, right? That's the only way we think we can crack this. And as an enterprise, we are doing it, and with more industry and governing bodies and the government, we should be able to accelerate this faster.
Yeah, my take of what you have said all along is that you're definitely on the open model. You want to share just to make the benefit for all
Yeah.
of what will come out of this sharing. So that's very interesting because it's very ethical in terms of approach. It's really ethically correct. Thank you very much. And Ricardo, what about you?
Yeah, I think to me the one of the keys is to have that interplay between regulatory bodies, academia, and industry, and to really engage in such a dialogue. There is the need for a global dialogue in order to really make sure that AI is sustainable, is helping sustainability, is helping society, and that we can really achieve the areas of highest impact. So I think it's about engagement and dialogue, what is key. And of course, collaboration, exchange of information, that's really what we need.
Thank you very much. I think it's very encouraging to see that you're absolutely in sync, the three of you together, in terms of your faith in the merits of AI-powered dialogue. So that's my take of it. I check, there is nobody in the audience that wants to have a question while we still have our good experts with us. Um, if not, we can adjourn. And I just want to thank you very, very much for your time, because everybody could see that you have a deep, deep expertise, and everybody could see that you have a real desire to share your expertise, which is really a matter for hope for AI in general, and for a good AI for a greener future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrice, and thank you, Ricardo and Antoine, for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Thanks, everybody.